I can relate to those of you that may hate me and may not understand the message of faith, a hope that I attempt to bring to those that are spiritual. I found once again that it's difficult to preach the type of message of hope and faith to those that have been preconditioned by the Black Book or the Holy Bible or the Hebrew Bible or the Old and the New Testament, that there is no other way but that way. But I'm here to tell you that that is not true. That while you still have time to add rather than subtract from your life, that now is the time that you utilize those resources that are available at your disposal to help shape your understanding that some things are not of God, but rather of his enemy. And some of those things that are of God has been swallowed up by the thrones of his enemies and nearly sucked out and squeezed out to near distinction. And there is very, very little left that can distinguish him from the enemy. And keep listening, you may get the message. You see, I care less about my life, but I care more for the lost and the weak souls of the kingdom, to keep fighting until my last breath, for their right to belong and to know that there is a God that loves them. And he loved them so much that he sent them his very best to protect them and to be their voices, especially when they are being oppressed by Satan and his imps. You see, I do not take bribes of any kind, and I consider myself to be just in all my doings. And I try to be fair to everyone, but I have been known to come up short in this area, because I have realized that I cannot be all things to everyone, because someone will not be happy, because that is how great God is, to allow folk like me and you to have freedom of expression even when we are being oppressed by our enemy. See, if you or someone you know are being sexually abused, call 911 or either hotline to get some professional advice. And the best hotline I know is God, because he has some expertise on the subject matter that you may be going through right now, or the subject matter that I discussed in this video. You know, I hope that this message has helped someone who may be dealing with similar issues, or someone who knows someone who is trying to overcome the power of being held by their attackers, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Ones who have been stripped of their womanhood and manhood. Folks who are faced. Folks, I'm telling you right now, the best type of cure is to face those demons head on and attackers, and call them what they are: cowards and perpetrators. Ones who feed on the lost and the weak, and the misled and the misguided, and the ones that lack knowledge. of the kingdom. And I tell you to demand your power back. Demand your power back like I did. And from this moment on, take ownership of your destiny. Do not lose sight of the heavens by being misled to hell under false pretense. You see, the Holy Roman Catholic Church, once again, they hate me more than many of you who do not understand my biblical teaching and my calling. But it seems to me that the Holy Roman Catholic Church understands my calling loud and clear, and have resorted to using desperate measures to silence my message on sites like Facebook and other news outlets by investing great sums of money into their Wall Street stock. And this is their way to keep you from seeing and hearing my message. You see, it makes more sense to me to kill the messenger than to keep letting him post unbecoming messages that puts a dagger in the back of the Christian religion. So-called doctrine of faith, than to keep allowing him to spread false truths. Because it's not like you haven't done it before. We know the last messenger, we know you slew him at the cross and denied him his inheritance, denied him his birthright, denied him his throne. Because your mission and your vision and your purpose and your objective was greater than his. And you had to answer. And so I say to you, do to me as you done to him. Give me my cross. And give me that martyr death that you gave him. You cowards. See, those of you who bang certain denominations, please be careful not to fall into the dialects of man-made deities and that twisted message of faith. And before you get upset, here's why I said that. Jesus brought you a message of salvation 2,000 plus years ago, but was murdered. Muhammad brought you Islam and could not read nor write, but someone translated the text, and its meaning after the fact that he was dead. We're not sure where his body lies to this day. Moses brought the Hebrew, the 5 books of the Torah, but he was taken into heaven. Moses suffered from taciturn, couldn't talk well, couldn't speak well. Seemed to me that a lot of these guys were suffering from some type of mental illness, and they wasn't all together upstairs according to this text. Can't have a mentally ill person running the world. Something is wrong with that. Who's going to believe them? And there's something wrong with them. They can't talk right. They can't read and write. Something is wrong. We need a smart person running the world. Listen to me now. And he was taken up into heaven, similar to Jesus. And there are similar stories of other founders of religious sectors and denominations and cults. You see, I believe that there is a God and his precepts for humanity in which to follow, but they are all flawed. If they are on this earth and man has his hands on them, they are flawed. But you must find your own way. But the best way is to trust those things that do not have boundaries than those that do. Crosses are symbolic signs of those who seek to enslave you or to do you bodily harm. But when you have become useless and you are no longer of value to them. Remember, a star is born every day, looking to replace the current stars at a blink of an eye. Trust no one but the God not seen but hoped for, because he will never forsake nor leave you in time of need. People, we are creatures of habit, and we see opportunity to make a name for ourselves. And those of you who are cohabitating, such as I, and those that believe marriage makes life morally and righteous in God's eye, think again. Please do not feed into that self-gloating ideology. Get to know your suspected spousal mate and any shortcoming or long or short-term comings. Know your mate. Knowing your mate will allow you to plan ahead and decide whether the relationship will be healthy or unhealthy, and to make adjustments as needed. See, a marital commitment does not always lend itself to prosperity or self-worth, but rather an opportunity for two or more people to share an investment for such a time that is allotted by God. Remember, all you Bible-carrying religious folk, in the book of Genesis, the second creation of God, being Adam and Eve, committed a grave sin, and their offsprings were and are a symbol of their sins. You and I. You and I. They gave birth to sinful choices and we inherited sinful choices from our offsprings or our parents or our descendants. Not knowing what marriage was, Adam and Eve not knowing what marriage was and how to give birth to a child, they were considered newborn babes to the serpent, being Satan, being God, being Satan, being God, being of godly descent. That led them to betray God, they were newborn babes to the serpent that led them to betray God and offer his assistance to Eve in the process of giving birth. You see, God had already done all he could do when he killed an animal to clothe them and to keep them warm, even after their disobedience and being disconnected. Now, has anyone questioned or wondered why the author of the biblical history wants the authors and the founders of the biblical history wants the reader to keep the text in context rather than in pretext? Well, here's a great example. Is for those of you that are in pursuit of an educational attainment goal, when you read books, are you allowed to say what the text say only, or put it in your own words to avoid plagiarism? But every time you read the word of God, you get something different. And it opens up a new window of opportunity. to think outside of the text or to put it in your own way of thinking in your own mind, but yet sticking to that one word in the text to brighten your horizons. And if everyone would take the biblical text out of context, then it wouldn't be believable to those seeking conversions or seeking a new way of living. See, the Roman Catholic Church was in the early and late slave trade business of breaking up homes and families in pursuit of profits, power, and control of all religious texts and manuscript, even at the brinks of murder, rape, torture, throughout their slave encampments. With the investment of their investors. And those of you that are watching this know who you are. Around the African coastal line. You see, folk, the Romans had figured out that this Jesus represented a different type of movement. One that had people willing to lay their lives down for the greater cause of the good. And they were losing the battle to these early Christians because they were willing to do something that they weren't willing to do. Is to give their lives for a worthy cause. So what better way to kill off the messenger and take over the mission, take over the vision and objectives, and have these very same people following the very same people that killed the messenger, but leading them not upward but downward. Look at their mission statement. It was founded on Peter's rock. Peter was the first. He was the first pope of the church. But he's the first one or the last one that sold Jesus out when the rooster crowed at 12 o'clock and he denied Christ. But he's the first pope of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. He said, bury me upside down, for I am not worthy to go to heaven. And they built a church on Peter's rock. Did I say that? Or did they say that? But anyway, to make a long story short, they went all around the world gathering up these same types of people. The word was already believable because Jesus was preaching it. But the problem is, who's over the church? Are these the real folk that's supposed to be over the church? Is the question. Can we really trust what the enemy has taken over and printed in the text and made it preconditioned in our minds to believe that this is true? It's hard for me to believe someone that murdered my whole family and converted me to their religion and telling me this is God's word. It's hard for me to grasp that. But I'm going to close. This is a long message. I'm going to close. But if anyone would take the biblical text out of context, then it would not be believable to those who seek conversion. See, you see, the present Roman Catholic Church, administrative bodies and churches and territories, is ones that invested in mercenaries and missionaries to convert new suspected convents under the pretext of being godly and God's purpose for humanity, while condoning slavery as being the sole will of God rather than Satan. I said that. History says that. Man says that. Man dynasties says that. See, the church forcefully converted native beliefs. They forcibly converted these native people. And their beliefs are all but gone from the 7 continents in place of a man-made deity run by little punks in gowns, little punks in grown folks' clothing, putting fear in anyone afraid to lose their life to gain life. I'm going to say that again. Those native beliefs on all 7 continents are all begun or have reached a level of distinction in place of a man-made deity run by little punks in grown folk clothing, putting fear in anyone afraid to lose their life to gain life. I'm going to say this: study your heritage while you still have a chance before they shut the doors on you. Your color does not make you who you have become or a part of, but rather it helps you understand the struggles and oppression your race had to undergo from its original state. Many have denied or forgotten these very words that were spoken before they were colonized by the sheep that came in wolf clothing to introduce them to a new Caucasian God and his redemptive power for all that accepts him. May I suggest in closing that you find your way before it's too late to make that choice, because the days are short. And I hope you enjoyed this message today.